Continuing our study with verse 13, I do not want you to be unaware, brothers and sisters, that often I have planned to come to you and have been prevented so far, so that I may obtain some fruit among you also, just as among the rest of the Gentiles. Okay, now, I know up until now, we've moved some of the interpretive keys to this book off for later verses. I've basically just said keep reading, and it'll make sense. But with verse 13, I can say that things are finally starting to get good, so to speak. What we want to notice here is Paul's language. He begins with this, I do not want you to be unaware, which is just saying in the negative, I want you to know. In other words, Paul is saying, know this. This is spelling out in no uncertain terms why Paul is writing this letter. He wants the Roman Christians to know that he does long to come and see them. However, as he tells us, he has been prevented from doing so. Now, we've already gotten hints of this back in verse 10. Paul has desired and prayed to get to Rome to see these people, but something has kept him from getting there. And in this verse, he finally gives us an idea of what this is. He says, so that I may obtain some fruit among you also, just as among the rest of the Gentiles. Now, let's not get caught up on this word fruit, which we can sometimes obsess over. In the context so far, we've seen Paul explain that he wants to see the Roman Christians strengthened in their faith. Contextually, this preaching of the gospel and the resulting faith is the fruit being spoken of. The thing to really pay attention to, because it sets the stage for the next verse, is what Paul says here at the end, just as among the rest of the Gentiles. In other words, as badly as Paul wants to get to Rome, he recognizes that his obligation is to the Gentiles in the world, not merely the Gentiles in Rome. In other words, it's like Paul is saying, make no mistake, I want to come see you and preach the gospel there, but you're not my only priority right now. Again, this is still the introduction. Paul is still laying the foundations for his argument in the book, but we should start to get a clear sense, starting here with verse 13, of what's going on in the Roman church that provokes Paul to write this letter. And right here in verse 13, he tells them first and foremost to not mistake his genuine intentions in wanting to come and preach the gospel among them. And in just a few verses, I think it's going to become pretty clear what's happening in Rome that leads Paul to say these things.